Welcome to On the Internet with Jason, a podcast where we explore the latest headlines, news, and interesting topics we find on the Internet. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Dude, I don't know where you get these intros, but like that was awesome. It's just like I actually kind of wanted to listen to it one more time because I was getting into it, you know. Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on an episode of anything and everything we want to talk about when it comes to the automotive industry. I'm not exactly sure what podcast we're recording today, so I'm just gonna go with that title. Today, I am joined with the one, the only, the Austin. Doesn't even have a last name. It's kind of like Beyonce. We just call it Austin.
Exactly. Hello.
And the oh so knowledgeable, the Superman himself, Jeff Tessier. What's going on, guys? What's up? How you doing?
Too bad. Good morning, everyone. How's everybody this morning?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited to take the kids out and go get jacked up on sugar and adult apple cider beverages tonight.
Yes, I'm looking forward to taking the kids out, and then we'll usually go out a little early, maybe 5:30, 5:45, get the kids done quickly, and then come back, light a fire, and have some adult beverages in the driveway while we hand out candy.
See, best thing ever. You know what? I know, Austin, that you have a total show planned, and me and Jeff will probably just end up ruining the entire
Derail it.
show by all means. But you have to say, look, I know today we're not supposed to mention dates because stuff gets posted here, there, and everywhere. But it's Halloween for us, and I mean, talk about just marketing at its best, right? Like let's just create a holiday, because we're not selling enough candy. And I mean, I know a lot of people talk about like the origins from All Hallows Eve, and there was another one from somewhere back in the 16th century with some other Buddhist monks and whatever. I've heard all kinds of variations of it, right? But the commercialization of wearing masks and going door to door for candy is totally, an American thing. And I mean, you have to applaud. I mean, literally, it's just took it two big industries, and we're not doing enough of something. Let's create a holiday. How awesome would that be if just one day I decided, you know what, I'm not doing enough business. I think I'm gonna make a holiday, and convince enough people that it's gonna happen, right? Like, I don't know, man. I don't even want to talk about how much money I spent on costumes. If you're a parent out there and you're watching, listen to this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the amount of money we spend for something they're going to wear once, because by next year they're going to outgrow it, and by next year it's going to be somebody else or some other monster.
Some other thing will be popular anyways, right? So it wouldn't matter if they stayed the same size,
right? But I know we're going to get
costumes and the candy, like $20 for like 50 candies is crazy. And yet, if you wait till tomorrow morning, those candies will be $5.
Dude, think about how amazing of a marketing strategy is. So let's take a candy bar, all right, this big, all right, that we normally sell for 89 cents, okay? Yeah. But then we'll cut it into 5 or 6 little pieces, all right? Combine that with 40 of those, and we'll sell the bag for $15. So
it's wild. There's no other holiday where you're giving strangers gifts either. Like, it's so unique in that sense, where it's like a commercialized line of people you don't know coming to receive gifts from you.
We literally tell our kids, don't talk to strangers except for Halloween, where we want you to go and knock on their doors and take stuff from them that you don't know
what it is,
or if anything's happened to it. It's a marketing and branding genius, and I would just love to know. I mean, I'm sure it was a series of events of how it got commercialized to what it is today, but I mean, bravo. Like, I know we'll probably talk about that when we go to Valentine's Day. We'll do the same thing, right? Like, just but I mean, I just think of that, Like, like someone asked me, so slow, sales are slow this quarter. What can we do to increase them? I'm like, let's make up a holiday. Even though, you know what though, I did see floating around the other day on social media like this list of holidays. Okay, people do make up holidays. Like, I guess there's actually a process that you can go through to actually register a holiday. I mean, dude, there's a holiday. I didn't know there was a National Donut Day. Did you guys know that? I'm not making this up. There's a National Donut Day. Did y'all know this?
Had no idea.
I thought for sure, Jeff, you would know that. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, doesn't look like I ate a few donuts.
I can't say much myself.
That's all the adult beverages versus the donuts.
Dude, there's a best friends day. Like, I mean, there's a holiday. Anyways, I digress. I'll get off this one. Austin, you actually did have a plan for today's podcast. So let's go with your plan, Austin, because if you let me just sit here, I'll just squirrel this one.
Yeah. So let's go through some headlines. That's what we do here on this podcast, right?
Right. Headline.
So first off, the final manufacturer, GM, reached a tentative deal with the UAW workers. And so, yeah, I guess that marks the end of the UAW strike.
Oh, for now.
It's a tentative deal. So, yeah, there's no guarantee that that's going to be sticking around.
Well, doesn't it say in the article they have to go through like a voting process, and it's like across multiple divisions for voting and blah, 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 right? Like, I think I read another article recently where, like, some of these departments by default will just vote no matter what, for the first offer that goes out there, no, right? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I guess maybe I've been in the automotive industry long enough to know that this is a cycle. Like, I don't know, Jeff, did this announcement of this particular strike make it feel any different than the one a few years ago and then the one a few years before then? Like,
no, it's been like you said, it's like a cycle, just like the weather and whatever. It's it's coming. I mean, they were a bit more deeper in their asks and things like that, but
considerably deeper in their asks than this one. So,
manufacturers are making record profits as well, and maybe the employees thought they should get their fair share of that, right? Whether I agree with that is I don't particularly, but they were asking, I think, for what was it, 40% increase over the next
40% wage increase, 4-day work week, cost of living adjustments, higher job security, defined benefit pension.
I mean, some of that I can agree with, but I mean, 40%. When are you or I, Jay, going to get a 40% increase over the next 10 years?
I gotta admit, like, I mean, who has the audacity? Do you know what I mean?
But I mean, that being said, I did read something somewhere else and talk with some guys last week that the manufacturers, even though that's a huge ask, because I expected, okay, that's just going to mean their costs are going to go up by 40%, right, or more, based on other things. But the reality is, their labor costs are not the most expensive part of their business. It's less than 10%. So, I mean, in reality, it's not really. But the unfortunate part in all of this is that the consumer, at the end of the day, is going to be just paying more. That's all it is, right? So,
well,
and we already see what's going on with inflation, right?
We already see what's going on with inflation. I mean, you already seen people like, pre-COVID, if you had, if you bought a car with a $500 a month payment, that same car is now a $750 a month payment. And let's just tack on, another excuse for manufacturers to increase. Like, look, it's not like the manufacturers are going to take this on the chin and go, we'll take one for the Gipper.
Yeah, I mean, they've gotten used to their high profits for the quarters, right? So they're going to maintain. If it's a $400 million profit quarter, or I don't know what they are, I don't really pay that much attention, but they'll manage that and then some more, right? So it's going to just be passed to the consumer.
It's simply going to be passed to the consumer, and and then the other thing, I just like, who has the audacity to come out and ask for 40% increase with a 4-day work week? It's like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just like, really.
Maybe we should be doing that.
And then we sit here and we'll complain about how, automotive is leaving leaving America. Well, oh shit, Sherlock. Like, I mean, look, I'm all
So
for, livable wages, but I mean, come on.
So
40%.
in the fight against like Tesla in non-unionized workforces, so pre UAW demands, the unions on average labor costs for the big three was $64 an hour, and non-union companies like Tesla were $50 an hour. But if you were to calculate in the UAW demands, if they were to
Jeez.
get everything that they're asking for, that now bumps up the big three to $150 per hour. So 3 times what Tesla has to pay. So that significantly puts them behind in terms of cost of labor.
Well, and like I said, these businesses aren't stupid. They're not going to take it on the chin, one for the Gipper. They are going to find other places, and ultimately, the consumer is just going to end up paying more for the product. And I think these companies will continue to find ways to do things with non-unionized workers.
Well, that's the other thing you got to look at, right? Look at even up here in Canada, we've had over the years, the last 15 to 20 years, manufacturing leave, right?
Exactly.
And although they are in a pinch right now, and it's not like they can just build a factory overnight, it doesn't mean that now plans aren't in the works to start relieving that excess labor cost somewhere else, right? So
Right.
we may not see those impacts today, but I remember one of the biggest strikes when I first entered the industry was in it must have been 97 or 98. I can't remember what year exactly, but GM was on strike for a very long time, and they got behind so far in production. But that was the start of jobs leaving the Canadian and parts of North America, right? So the US market, right? So
And
I
it's
mean,
been a
what we'll see down the road is a who knows, right?
well, it's been a chisel. I mean, probably since maybe mid 70s, late 80s, going in through the 90s. Like, I mean, like I said, this is a cycle. And it's like every single time this goes through a cycle, they just chisel off a little bit more, But hey, I don't know. Look, the car I'm driving was built in Mexico, and I'm pretty satisfied with it.
Well, yeah. What's also interesting is like the non-union manufacturing too, right? Like we've got some people that work for the
True.
Honda plants in our area up here, and they've already looked at these contract negotiations, and maybe they're not paid quite the same, but obviously they will do what they can to come closer to make sure that they're not in those positions of losing labor force or whatever, right? So I mean, I think these guys are paid quite well, to be honest, from what I hear from people that I know that work in manufacturing. So I'm not sure.
Well, like I said, I think the bottom line is at the end of the day that it's going to be the customer ends up paying for it.
Yeah,
So,
which sucks.
which sucks. But like I said, I'm not surprised. I don't know why this particular one people were making a bigger deal over it. Like I said, it's about a 3 to 4 year cycle. If you go back and look about 3 or 4 years, there was one then. Go another 3 or 4 years behind then, it was another one. Like it just, I don't know. Maybe I've heard it and seen it so much. It's not like the big three are just going to go, oh no, we're going to stop making cars. Like it's like it's not going to happen, right? And you know what? I also think it was a little bit of let's call it what it is, a little opportunistic. The timing with everything. Things are just kind of beginning to settle down a little bit. Coming off of a couple of years of just ridiculous profitability, higher margins, bigger grosses, and so yeah. Anyways, is what it is. I It's a blurb. It's a blurb on the big picture. And like I said, it'll happen. It happens now. Happen again in the next 3
Well, their contract will be for 4 years, right? So
exactly. We'll see. There you
prepare
go.
for this in the next 3.5 years to start hearing about it again.
Wait till another 3.5, 4 years for you to start hearing about it all over again.
So speaking of manufacturing heading elsewhere, do you guys know what the biggest EV manufacturer company is?
EV manufacturer company
Of EV, like batteries or like EV vehicles in general?
Vehicles.
Isn't Volkswagen one of the biggest ones right now?
Well, I was going to say Nissan. Who is it?
Neither of you voted Tesla? That surprises me.
Well, I'm just thinking total amount.
Volume.
Volume. Yeah.
BYD, the Chinese manufacturer,
No
is number
kidding.
one if you
Really?
include PHEVs. So Tesla's the biggest battery electric vehicle producer, and BYD is
I knew it was going to be something
destroying
like
everyone.
it had to be
If
something
you-
in China. And you know what it's going to be. I mean, the amount of vehicles we talk so much about the the American market, but when you look at the South Pacific market, it's bloody monstrous.
That's huge.
That's crazy though.
So yeah, BYD is doing
mean,
a lot of interesting things. Their cars are significantly cheaper than Tesla's.
Yeah.
They're entering the new mark. They're entering the states within
Do they plan on? Actually, I do remember reading this. I think in the next
I
few
think a
years.
year or so.
Yeah. That'd be interesting. Well, think of it. It's going to be like a. I mean,
So
think when
this
like
is their-
Honda show. Yeah, I've seen these. I've seen these before.
This is the
actually.
BYD Han, and this one here.
Not bad looking cars. I have no idea how the hell they drive or what they look like. But I've seen the pictures. Not bad
Yeah,
cars.
their mass market one is looking at like 32,000 right now.
US.
Um,
Pretty reasonable.
US,
Yes.
which is significantly cheaper than your Tesla. And yeah, from what I've heard, it's comparable in performance.
I
Obviously, looks good.
can definitely see this happening. And it could be something like the 60s when Honda showed up. I can't remember what the name of the first Honda was, but it was a tiny little tin can with 53 horsepower in it, right? And everybody sat there and laughed at it and said, that wasn't going to do anything. And now years later, look at it. But it was that kind of considerably less expensive, similar to Volkswagen showing up as well, right? The same thing with the Bug, less expensive, reasonable driving experience for the money. I mean, I could see a disruptor like that, a company like that has that type of swing, being able to show up and just take that EV market, to an incredibly massive level. I mean, think the same thing we saw with the first Honda here in the States, same thing we saw with Volkswagen and the Beetle. Like, it's just looks like a Civic. I don't know. Looks Tesla-like to me. Actually, look more Honda Civic-like to me. Got a bit more of a car than an EV look to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. And so part of they're really big on battery manufacturing as well. And so they're getting the prices down, like how they're getting it so competitive with Tesla and even beating them in price is they're buying up a lot of mines in like Africa for obviously the metals that you need in battery production.
Mhm.
So they're doing a lot of interesting things there where they're getting the battery price significantly lower than what any American company can sort of produce. So
I think
that's
you're seeing more and more of this in manufacturing. I mean, look, there was a point in time where you had the manufacturer, and then you had 2,000 companies that produced the parts for that manufacturer to build that, right? That's not the case. That number's gotten smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and manufacturers are in the business now of producing a lot of their own parts. We saw a pretty significant increase in that with the chip shortage. And a lot of manufacturers realizing they're not going to deal with that kind of crap again, and started buying up companies, so they could start producing their own chips. So like I wouldn't be surprised. I think sometime in my lifetime that there is a manufacturer, all right, that manufactures everything that they own and everything that they build. It's not happening right now, but I could see it as a possibility in my lifetime. And literally from the point of the mineral being mined to the point of that vehicle rolling off the line, all right, that soup to nuts, they own the entire model.
And I think that's why Tesla is investing so much in battery production, right, with their
Yeah,
gigafactories and
100%.
and so
100%.
this is how low they can get the price. They got the BYD Seagull for $11,400.
Wow.
$11,400. Well, you see, the other thing we're always finding with a lot of these Chinese manufacturers, one of the reasons they've always had difficulties because it's not that this is new, right? There are a lot of manufacturers, there that have not been able to make it over, mostly due to, all right, safety requirements, right? So it's, what the standards and what we require here is so considerably different. Well, at least that's the excuse that's used on a regular basis. If they can build a car for North America to pass, safety standards and come in, 10, 20, 30 grand cheaper than the competition, I don't see why they take that one. What was the other headline I saw that I thought was kind of funny with Ford? My buddy Jim Ziegler, I was actually posting that. Farley put it out there, something along the lines of saying that, they're going to back off of the estimated EV investment they were putting into it because of consumers' behavior not wanting to purchase as many EVs. I don't know. I thought the article was really weird because then I saw, Brian Kramer jump in there and he saw, I think, the same stats I saw that, Tesla's selling more EVs than they've ever have in the past. I was recently at an event with Polk Automotive, and they were talking about Tesla has like one of the highest, if not the highest, all right, retention rate, meaning a Tesla buyer has like something that was like a 70% or over 70% probability of going back and buying another Tesla. Can you imagine having that type of commitment to it, especially today, right? I mean, back in the day, that made sense.
Yeah, but loyalty hasn't been that way for the last 15 years, right? So
can you imagine like over 70% commitment to going back to getting the exact same brand? Yeah. I don't know. It's weird because, like, especially with EVs right now, I'm reading a lot of conflicting articles out there, and I don't know if there's an agenda going on or something like that. But I mean, I've read a handful of articles where saying that the consumers, I guess, confidence in EV is lowering, and then you're seeing, on the flip side of the manufacturer of, some manufacturers increasing their investments in EV, some claim that they may decrease it. I don't know. It's like it's all over the place. Here's the bottom line, my perspective on this. I like EVs. I like them because I like driving them. They are a wildly different experience than driving an ICE vehicle. And 3-letter word, guys, if you don't, internal combustion engine, ICE. I
never know.
A lot of people on podcasts, I don't know. I always got to be aware in our industry that our usage of 3-letter acronyms, right?
That's what we're good for.
But it's a wildly different ownership experience, driving experience. I had the opportunity recently when I was out visiting a friend in Las Vegas. He had one of the 1,200 horsepower Lucids. Have you seen this? So Lucid, right? They make a 1,200 horsepower
ridiculous
sedan. It's stupid. The fact it's even something that's built and you could buy is you shouldn't be able to buy something like this. So that's all I'm saying, right? So like, but I'm even like the Rivian that I ordered, and I'm still excited to take ownership of that thing. It's just like there's there's a market for EVs out there. Do I think everybody should own an EV? No. And am I good? Am I in my household? Am all of our cars going to be EV? Absolutely not. So I don't know. But it's interesting to see how much of a wild swing of these articles are.
Is this the article you're talking about?
Yes, this is it right here. What is it? Isn't it? Tesla joins GM. Oh no, this was fear spreads. Yes. As demand. dude, you see articles like this, but then literally, I don't know. It's all, and then, but then 3 days later, you see another article from them telling them how they're doubling down on their investment into the EV business. It's like, I don't know. I don't even know, man. If I went to sit here and speculate, right? Like, you know what? I think trying to speculate on the success of EVs is like trying to tell the weather 2 weeks from now. Speaking of that, I think, isn't that like the best jobs in the world, to be a weatherman?
Yeah.
Like, you can consistently be wrong well over 50% of the time and still maintain your job.
Yeah, but isn't it also difficult that like it's impossible to be right because it changes constantly?
And that is exactly why I'm referring this to EVs, and what will happen in the future. Here's one thing I know. There are a lot of really, really smart people that are putting substantial amount of investments, into it. So do I think it's a fab and it's just going to go away? No, don't believe that at all. I've seen some reports that, by 2030, that well over a third of vehicles on the market will be EV. That seemed like a lot to me, to be honest with you. But I gotta be honest with you. I mean, I do visit some, metro areas that, already feel like that is the case. Like I said, recently was in Las Vegas. Dude, every other car in Las Vegas is a Tesla. I think I read an article recently. I did. I saw, me, I love headlines, right? I think it was somewhere in California. I can't remember what city. It may have been San Francisco or something along that lines, but it was a major metropolitan area. And the number of EVs had then now actually, it was either matched or just slightly exceeded ICE vehicles registered in this major metropolitan area.
Wow.
So, and that seemed to be a pretty recent stats. But then you go read articles like what you just showed there, Austin, and they're like, oh, the confidence are changing. And I'm like,
well, I'm sure there's like lobbyists for the fuel companies or whatever that really want to push their agendas as well. And it may not be for everyone. I mean, probably certain parts of the US especially that just will not adopt to that. But I know for us in Canada here, we've got very strict accords, and I don't even know how they're supposed to meet them. Constantly every year, it seems like the Canadian government or provincial governments to the left seem to be pushing hardcore. Like I think I saw something the other day that said BC's changing their EV requirements, increasing them instead of 2040 down to 2030, right? So
what requirements? What are they?
That like 75% of the cars, or some crazy number that's just going to not be achievable. Right?
But here's the one thing I've seen with Canada, though. What I find is interesting is that I've read several articles about the commitment to infrastructure. I was something recently, maybe it was Petro-Canada, I can't remember, but I think it was, that made a commitment by the next 5 years to have charging stations across all of their locations in Canada, which would, almost quadruple, all right, the infrastructure, the ability to charge. I mean, I know when I was living in Canada, the Petro down the street had one of the fast chargers, the big one, right? Was the 440, whatever they call it, that you could sit there and have like 80% charge in like 9.5 minutes or something like that. Well, as I'm saying, like, so I think it all kind of gets tied down into infrastructure. Now, by the way, I know we're getting towards the end of this half an hour show, but if it was me, I would be seriously looking at the infrastructure and how to invest into that space. When you look at, just think about this. Think of this. If you ever thought about owning a gas station, you know what the margins on gas stations are?
Probably
like 3 to 5%, right? Like in some cases lower. I've seen, like, depending on the metro area you're in, could be 1 to 2% margin, right? You know what the margin on charging stations are? 25 to 50%. I'm
not surprised when it's like $4 a minute to charge or some, some places, right?
Well, yeah. Look, I go to, let's say that big fast charger, right? And in the prices can wildly change, but let's say I want that 80% charge in 11 minutes or whatever my car can handle, right? like the cost of that is like $19 or 15 to $20, I think is what the average cost is to do something like that. Okay. You know what I mean? Like if I was the EV owner, I'm like, okay, but the margin on that, depending on how they have it structured, between 25 and 50%.
That's wild.
That math makes sense to the point where from an infrastructure perspective, I can see.
Yeah, I can invest in it and make it work.
Well, let's say I own a little strip mall, why would I not put that in there? Also to encourage a little 9.5 or 14-minute little shopping tour of whatever I got in that strip mall. If I was a restaurant owner, what if I was Starbucks?
Yeah.
What if I was Starbucks, right? And the Starbucks just woke up one day and they announced this. Dude, that would fundamentally change the infrastructure in such a big way that anyways, I'll shut up. I'm going to get off my soapbox. I know, guys, we didn't get through a whole lot of headlines today on this particular one, but we appreciate everyone out there spending the time to hang with us and jam with us about today's headlines. If you enjoy this content and you want to see more, please make sure you check out strategyadjacent.com. Thank you, everyone. You guys have a wonderful day.
Take care.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to On the Internet with Jason. To stay up to date with all our content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.